What happened in the sprint for the US Grand Prix? We have some serious chatting to do today. It's 11:56 in the evening. I have stayed up all this time. So has Tommy. So has everybody, really. Anyway, we need to talk, don't we, Tommy? None of these happy vibes. We need to talk sprint. We need to talk serious. And we need to talk about it now.
I think you're going to pop off in this one, so get ready for some opinions. It's going to be a spicy one, I think.
Now, before we dive into our sprint race chat from the US Grand Prix, there is some lovely, wonderful chat, and that's about our Patreon, which has lots of awesome stuff on there, extra podcasts, an exclusive new podcast series about classic Formula One races, ad-free listening, F1 driver video interviews in full, early access to events, and much, much more. Now, that last one teased me very nicely. The P1 live show is back. 3rd of December, Manchester. 5th of December, Glasgow. 10th of December, London. We're doing a tour, Tommy. What are we, a bloody band? The full announcement is coming out next Wednesday. I'm buzzing for that. Tommy, how are you feeling?
Big hype. You know, we've got the first live show locked in. The nerves have shifted. I know I can do it now. And we did the Silverstone one as well. And now I'm just super excited for this, going on a little tour and going to some different places around the UK. It's going to be good.
Right, let's talk about some sprints then, shall we? The first question comes in from Ionium's. How can I claim the 37 minutes of my life back? I think I was a bit more savage about the sprint than you were. You kind of were quite, it was all right, not too bad. I thought it was reasonably dull. But one thing we can agree on is that the format is something that we need to discuss and really sort of hammer home here. And you put a tweet out, actually, Tommy, that was absolutely bang on, which is that sprints have been saved by the weather and craziness, which has given us this element of, sprints are good. When the reality is it was nothing to do with the format. It was just the conditions that were put in front of the drivers. Yeah,
and you can argue that, wet races are better than normal races, or when there's crazy things happen, they're better than normal races. But the problem is the sprint has to have that for it to be any good at all. There was some reasonable action.
Most of it in replay.
Yeah, most of it in replay. We'll get into that later because that's another thing to rant about because the TV direction was pretty abysmal. But it is funny that actually just firstly going into this question of can I claim the 37 minutes of my life back? I'd argue that it's more because it's a whole day you have to dedicate to it now because there's a whole qualifying system just for these short sprints. It is frustrating because the format is so dead. And this is coming from someone that hates practice. I want less of it. There's nothing wrong. The most frustrating thing for me is I think the sprints can be good. I'm not anti-sprints. I just think the format is just not lending itself to excitement. It's not what it should be. It should be something completely different to the race. It should be something exciting, a chance to do something new. And you're just getting a mini spoiler, like you said, and there's no pit stops. All the cars started on the same tyres, apart from one. While it wasn't, in my opinion, absolutely awful, it just really did lack something. It wasn't a particularly exciting one, to say the least.
You are completely right, Tommy. There are numerous ways of how they can make this sprint more fun. It's not like Formula One is scared to change the norm because they've introduced sprints. They are happy and willing to change the format to something that they think will be entertaining. But why have they gone for this one?
Because it's so, yeah.
Who are they being safe for? Is it Red Bull saying no? Is it Mercedes saying no? Is it the top team saying, no, we don't want reverse sprints. We don't want reverse top 8. I don't know. Carlos, when we interviewed him, he said, a lot of the drivers or some of the drivers have said that they want this sort of sprint reverse format. And I'm sure they are probably the slower cars that want to start towards the front. But I know that everyone will have their own biases and their own vested interests. But what we've seen today is that something has to change. We need different tyre compounds. We need something that means that I am not going to go into tomorrow and know categorically that Charles Leclerc is probably going to finish a minute behind Max Verstappen and that Lewis Hamilton cannot catch Verstappen or probably keep Verstappen at bay, that Norris is probably going to chew up and destroy Leclerc as well by the looks of the end of that stint. There's so many spoilers that it just ruins a Formula One weekend for me. Sunday is such a precious, special day for me that you kind of ramp up to in a Formula One weekend. And now it's just like up and down, up and down. And if anything, Saturday is where you get all your answers.
I think this race, there has been something about it that's made me feel more that way, that it is a bit of a spoiler, because essentially we've now seen that Verstappen does have loads in the tank. Leclerc, like you say, has no race pace, and I don't think it's going to rain tomorrow, so it's going to be much the same, and it is going to be exciting. I think we can be very thankful that we've actually got a very good grid for tomorrow, because the gaps are quite alarming, to be honest. You've got 30 seconds separating the top six. And you know what? Looking at those gaps, I think it's almost, you could argue that it is the perfect example to say why reverse grids would work. The thing is, Verstappen has won that race by 10 seconds. Logan Sargent, in a 19-lap race, finished 1 minute and 11 seconds behind Max Verstappen. That just shows that you flip the grid around, Verstappen is still very near the front, if not at the front, even in those 19 laps, because the field spread is enormous. But at least it's going to be absolutely awesome and exciting.
What I would say is there's probably a happy medium to be found here. I don't think that Verstappen starting 20th is fair. I think if we were to have it half race distance, there's a bit more chance, because I don't think Verstappen wins from 20th in a 19-lap race. No chance. So there has to be a kind of happy balance where it doesn't become massively gimmicky and you have Alex Albon winning every sprint race or something like that. At the end of the day, they're doing this to get more people to watch. And I guarantee more people are going to watch if Logan Sargent is on pole position for the Saturday sprint race around Austin. P1 Patreon member MZT. Are the sprint races worth it? Friday attendance will have increased, I'm sure, but is it worth the headache of a changed weekend and spoilers? It's difficult to be able to fully measure it, I suppose, because I see countless comments around people being at work or being busy on a Friday and not being able to catch qualifying, and it being quite an upsetting thing for a hardcore Formula One fan who might be busy doing their own life and not being able to set aside that amount of time. I mean, if you're asking the question to Formula One, of course it's worth it. They're making more money doing it. They're being able to showcase and shout about bigger numbers across a whole Formula One weekend than usual. For fans, is it worth it? I don't know. I think asking myself and Tommy, who are so ingrained and long-time Formula One fans that hate change, or like change when it's the right change, I think is probably better to say. I don't know. But then again, I guess I sit a little bit differently to you do in terms of practice sessions. And I think we're both on the same opinion that FP1, FP2, FP3 could change to something a bit more exciting, which is what sprints have tried to do. And we're open to that. It's just that the current sprint race format is not worth it, mainly because it's just a separate event.
Yeah, we essentially, like, the sprint in the format that it is at the moment, because it's 1/3 of the race, is like they've pressed the simulate button and then pressed end 1/3 into the race, and we've gone, okay, now let's analyze this. Verstappen's really quick. Leclerc's tyres are going to fall off, which can create a bit of intrigue. There'll be some people going, oh, actually, it's interesting that we now learn about this. But I think most people are probably like, well, now maybe it has spoilt it a bit. But what I will say is, thank goodness the the grid is how it is tomorrow. Otherwise, I will be far less excited for the race than I am tomorrow.
Question from Arman something. Ferrari cooked its tyres in all of 10 seconds. How does Matt mentally prepare for tomorrow? Well, look, as a Ferrari fan, my hopes and dreams and expectations are in the gutter anyway. Now they're even more in the gutter because I know that Charles Leclerc has absolutely no race pace in long runs. So what I do here is that I will still be incredibly excited because there is that slight 1% in me that goes, anything can happen. That would have been about 5%, I think, had I not seen this sprint. So I'm mentally prepared. It's going to be a very, very difficult race for Charles Leclerc. I think he's lucky to even finish on the podium tomorrow, but we will have to wait and see.
Yeah, particularly that Norris was all over the back of him with a lap to go. So yeah, it it is a shame for Ferrari because it does look like it's going to be a struggle.
Another one to add to the poll to win.
Yes, I think it'd be a miracle if he manages to win tomorrow.
Next question. DJ Ferrari F1. Why did Hamilton not get a penalty for driving off the track to overtake Charles on lap 1? On initial glance, I think we were both like, that's probably going to be a penalty. And then we watched it back on the replay, and you can kind of see that he wouldn't have really gained anything by going out there. If anything, it was just sort of a lap 1, trying to not make contact with the Ferrari. It's not like a George Russell who genuinely just got a slingshot out of the corner and tried to just extend and obviously go round and have the inside for the next triple right-hander. So I don't know. I wasn't like fully convinced that Hamilton didn't deserve a penalty, but I can also understand why he didn't get one. I don't even think he was under investigation, unless I missed that.
No, he wasn't.
So maybe it was very much like a lap 1 thing, because I can imagine that happened maybe a few cars behind as well, with 20 cars going into that very difficult turn 1 that tightens. I'm not absolutely aggravated that he didn't get a penalty. That's kind of how I stand on it.
Yeah, track limits is quite the annoying topic, I think, for me personally, because it changes so much. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, just give it a rest with the whole like white line thing, because it's getting a bit ridiculous. And I do think that it has to be judged on a case-by-case basis, because sometimes drivers do, they don't gain an advantage, they lose a bit of time, they make a mistake and run wide.
And final question from MJ_95. Why is the F1 TV direction so bad? There were some battles for no points, but still better than the battles at the front. This is exactly what I was thinking. F1 TV direction, what were you doing? I don't understand. I genuinely don't. Like, I get when there's half a second, 6/10, whatever, let's focus on the battle for 4th or 5th. But there wasn't. They were 2-3 seconds all separated. There was nothing really going on. Meanwhile, you have got them scrapping like their lives depends on it for P17, which I want to see. There's some great moves happening into that lovely little double left-hander before the triple right-hander, which is like such a great corner. One of the best slow corners in Formula One, in my opinion. And we're seeing replay after replay of this chaos that is going on behind. And for me as a Formula One fan, I want to see that live. Now, I know when they have to commit to the leaders, but the one time they should have committed to the leaders was the time they didn't commit to the leaders and were watching the midfield. It was when Hamilton was in DRS, he got to within half a second of Verstappen. I want to see that. Show me a bit of that. I know it's probably not going to be an overtake, but we don't ever see a battle for the lead. Give us some of Verstappen versus Hamilton, but instead we're watching Piastri getting swallowed up by Alex Albon.
Yeah, the direction was really poor in that. I really hope we don't have the same problem in the race tomorrow, and they can, I'll say, learn from it. But it was worse than normal, I think, because it feels like we've not had this run, and they've normally been quite good recently at using mini boxes and things like that, and we've been like, all right, fair play. But for whatever reason, they just absolutely essed the bed with it this this sprint, because it really was bad. It was the fact that we were watching cars cruising around with 5-second gaps between them, and then it cuts to a replay, and like you say, like Zhou and Magnussen have just like swapped 6 times through 4 corners. And you're like, just show this. There's nothing else going on.
I wanted to see Kevin Magnussen versus Logan Sargent for the last place in the field. They finished 3/10 apart, and we were robbed.
Exactly. Give us Logie. We might not see him for too much longer.
Yeah, come on. Especially it's his home race. God, have some respect. Anyway, on that note, we are done and dusted. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to this wonderful sprint pop-off, I'm going to call it. I apologise if I went a little bit over the top, but I'm tired, I'm delirious, but I'm most of all passionate about Formula One. We'll see you tomorrow on our Twitch channel for the watch-along. Be sure to check out our live show announcement next week as well, which we're very excited about. As a reminder, the 3rd of December is Manchester, 5th of December is Glasgow, and the 10th of December is London. So put that in your diaries, lock out that date, say, no, Mum, I'm going to go see Matt and Tommy that day. And we look forward to seeing you there. But we'll have lots more details coming your way, and we'll see you very soon. Bye!
Bye!
It's midnight.